We have, the nature is there, the universe is there. There is something and nobody can deny it. There is something that is there, that is out there watching for us, supporting us, loving us. But if we close our doors and we are living in a shell, how can we receive help? Got to open some windows, right?
Yeah.
Doors, and then eventually have no shell. And that's why, live with no shell. Just be authentic, be original, pave your own path.
All right, guys, welcome back to the School of Greatness podcast. We have the legendary Novak Djokovic.
That's great.
In the house, man.
You pronounced it very well.
I pronounced it the way you told me to.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited about this. This is your first podcast.
First podcast, yes.
And we had lunch a couple days ago. Your wife, Elena, introduced me to you. She had found, I guess, some of my information somewhere, our podcast somewhere, and reached out, asked me to do an interview with her. We had a great conversation. She was like, you have to meet my husband. You're going to love him. And I said, okay, I don't really know much about you. And then she was telling me all these things about you, about how you really are here, yes, to be the best tennis player that you can be, but to make a massive impact in the world. And that you constantly want to give back and you want to spread love and joy and bring humanity together. And I said, okay, if he's more than just an athlete, then I must meet this guy.
She gives the best introductions of me, I must say.
Exactly, man.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to have her in my life, and I think it starts from there. Really, emotional stability, the love, first towards yourself, of course, but then being able to share, love and share everything that you experience in life with your partner is something that brought a lot of joy, a lot of inner peace, and a lot of success later on in my life. She's probably the only serious relationship I ever had. As I was telling you the other day in the lunch, and but she'll probably not agree with that. Really? She's like, yeah, but you had a girlfriend 3.5 months before me. And, okay, yes, I had, but right. We started dating. I was 18. She was 19, and now we've been married for 3 years. 4 years. No, what is it? 3.5. Oh my God, I'm gonna get in trouble.
It's all good.
I have the ring on, darling. It's fine. But we have 2 beautiful children, and it's amazing. It's great to be able to share my life with her. Yeah,
it's amazing. Now you started tennis when you were 4. Is that right? Started playing at 4.
I started when I was 4 years old, and the story goes like this. Basically, nobody has touched the racket before me in my family, so I don't have any tradition that I inherited, to play tennis. Tennis was never a big sport in our country. Before that, we did have Monica Seles, for example. I don't know if you remember her, and she came over to States and she played for Yugoslavia at that time, and then she played for States as well. So she was our biggest star. We had Slobodan Boba Živojinovic, who was top 20 of the world at singles and first in doubles, but that's as far as we go in Serbia. Croatia, for the other hand, had more success. They had Goran Ivanišević and they had Pilic and all these guys that were top 3, 4, 2 in the world and winning Grand Slams and so forth. So, but tennis was never a big sport. We're more a nation of team sports: basketball, soccer and handball, volleyball, water polo. I mean, we had huge amount of success in those sports, and.
Water polo, you guys are Olympic champions.
Water polo, these guys are. So they're one of the most dominant teams in all sports and ever. I mean, these guys haven't lost a game like in 10 years. Wow. They're amazing. So yeah, and then I grew up with my family in one mountain resort in Serbia called Kopaonik. My parents had restaurant business there. So we used to commute between the capital city, Belgrade, where I was born, and where we basically lived and went to school, and Kopaonik often because of the business that was, we lived out of.
Yeah.
And
the restaurant was in Belgrade, or in
no, restaurant was on the mountain. We had. The mountain was quite popular in those days with summer and winter and also
tourist
spring.
mountain,
Yeah, exactly.
Snowboard or
but then
ski
as the wars came after that, unfortunately became only very seasonal thing, just to go get a couple months of skiing, and that's all. And they were building 3 tennis courts actually in front of that restaurant when I was 4. It was 1991. And it was just, I think, the year before the war started, actually, when Yugoslavia broke apart. And we still had a lot of foreigners coming and so forth. So there was a lot of interest for tennis, because tennis is a sport that was born in France and in England in more aristocratic environments. Right. So it was tennis. Tennis is a sport of gentlemen. It's not a very easily accessible sport, affordable sport like maybe basketball, soccer, football, those type of sports. So I fell in love with it right away. I mean, I helped workers, kind of make the court. In return, I was bringing some beers to them. So I was a small kid. Old. Yeah, I was,
right.
I was eager. I was just curious as any other child, what is going on here. So finally, I found out it's tennis. I just became aware that I'm alive, 4 years old. I mean, I was that young. And I was like, okay, Dad, I would like to, see what's going on here and maybe eventually get a racket, And so I started asking and then begging and then please, So eventually he said, great, here you go, racket, ball. And then tennis camps started to come over. And so from Belgrade and different cities in Serbia. And so I joined, right away. The first camp that I saw, there was like a bunch of kids coming from different cities in Serbia. And it was like a program for a week. And so because it was so close to the restaurant which my parents had, I just kind of walked there and hang on the fence and just try to understand what the sport is. And I started watching it on TV, and then the rest of it is history. I really was very fortunate to meet that same year, I think, or the year after, I like to call her my tennis mother. She has greatly influenced my tennis career, my life as well. My parents were really kind, and they trusted her so that she can have influence off the court on me as well, which is, it's tricky to do as a parent. I mean, especially if you have a child that is that young. You as a parent, you believe that you have everything that the child needs in order to, I guess, help him develop into a mature and healthy, human being. And so, as a parent, you always think like, okay, who is going to be the mentor of my child? So both my mom and dad were really, really happy with, I guess, quality of person that Jelena Gencic was. And she used to train also with Monica Seles and so forth. So she was probably the best person I could have at that stage. And she saw me right away. She said, okay, you have great talent. She told my parents, she said, okay, this kid can be number 1 of the world. And I mean,
5 years old?
And that was exactly. And that was, it was at 6 or 7.
After you're playing for a little bit,
for a few years. But she said, right away, she said, okay, it was something different because I came to the first tennis practice ever. I came in with a little bag and a little, I had a extra t-shirt. I had a little bottle of water and whatever. I prepared that. I was very, very much into it. I wanted to be ready. And so she found that very odd, and she found that very, very special. And so she said there's something about him, that is, different. And I think, and she was telling my parents that they should support me. And bear in mind that those were 90s, and we had 2 wars, and we had all this bunch of different, difficulties and adversities in life that we were facing, which was making it as much difficult for my parents to support me and to become a tennis player and to pursue my dream. And it was, as we talked about it 5 minutes ago, I mean, it's an expensive sport. You know, you got to afford a
Coaches,
racket, coach,
court
balls,
time,
all this stuff, you know. And but you know, we went through all this stuff, and my father saw that spark in my eyes and said, okay, you know, this is what you're going to do.
Amazing, man. This is crazy. So do you think that if she didn't say that you could be number one in the world, do you think you would have actually become it without having someone else believe in you? Or was that belief early on?
You know, I usually don't like to play with these questions. What if? Because
yes.
I believe that everything in life happens with a reason and for a reason. So I think if we have to think about it, yes, I think it would be. I don't know if I would actually pursue the career of a tennis player if it wasn't for the belief and support that I had from my parents and her.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, of course, I fell in love with the sport, but you know, when you're that young, you know, kids are curious, so we play different, you know, different sports. You engage yourself, and who knows where the path takes you, you know. And I did play other sports as well. I mean, I did skiing because it was mountain. My father was a professional skier. My aunt, my uncle, they were all competitors, and they were all competing on a high level, in regional level and European level.
Yeah.
So that's actually how my parents met as well. My father was an instructor and she was skiing, and so the whole thing, you know, and then here I am, you know, and so skiing was and still is today a great passion of mine.
Really?
Yes, but you're right. If I haven't had her and my parents saying, okay, you really, there is something that you know you should pursue here in this sport, I probably would play other sports, and probably the sports that were more popular, you know, with
team
friends.
Sports and you
know how it is. I mean, when you're that young, you want to play sports and you want to belong to a group, you know, to a little community, whatever. So nobody was really, there were not many kids playing tennis because it was expensive, it was not affordable, it was
isolated.
It was not maybe as much fun as some other team sports, because, you know, when you're playing soccer or basketball, it's more fun. Like this, exactly. You're more isolated, more individual. You do play, you know, of course, in groups and so forth, in camps and stuff like that. But, you know, half of the time you're spending it by yourself on one side of the net, and that's all you got.
That's crazy. Now, the first war, you went through 2 wars in Serbia, right? The first war, you were 6, 7.
Yeah. I was 5. I think 92. Yeah, that's when. Yeah,
and that one was the lesser of the 2 wars, is that right? It was still, you know, bombs everywhere, but it wasn't as hard as the
so
second one.
The first war was more in Croatia and Bosnia. It was between, you know, Serbs and Bosnians and Croatians, and the whole you know, the whole Yugoslavia. There was once a big country with, you know, 6-7 states that you know, fall apart. And so it was the war lasted for a long time. I think 3-4 years, and there was, you know, of course, a lot of victims. Nobody wins in war. I mean, it's a terrible thing. But it wasn't. I didn't feel it. My family didn't feel it in Belgrade, in Serbia, as much as people, you know, in these areas of Bosnia and Croatia felt it.
Gotcha. The second war was the one you felt the most, right?
Yes.
When you were around 12.
I was 12. And I remember actually I celebrated my birthday during those 2.5 months of bombing, and I was turning 12, and I still remember that scene. Actually, we were having this like a little birthday party at this tennis club. So us kids, we were frightened, we were scared, we didn't know what tomorrow brings. But at the same time, we, you know, as a child, you don't really have the worries that adults have. So you're living in the moment. And for us, it was great that we get to spend more time playing tennis, having fun, than in school. so that was it was like, oh, great, you know, we get to do that and that. We don't get to sit, you know, for hours and hours, but we get to actually play.
So you didn't have school during that time? Or?
Sorry?
There was no class during that time?
No, absolutely not. No. It was
schools canceled.
Canceled, everything. You know, it's just many people fled, and just Yeah, I mean, it was. You know, it was one of these things that, you know, it was not like from one day to another. We were kind of warned about it months prior to when it happened, but I think, you know, super majority of people really didn't believe that that's going to happen.
Really?
like, I mean, imagining that, you sit here and you see planes, dropping bombs here and there. I mean, and everything is trembling, and, the windows are breaking, and everybody's screaming, and the whole city, I mean, the whole country was basically bombed. And it was because of, the part of Serbia at the time, and it was Kosovo that was, and the whole thing, I mean, not to get into politics because it just gets ugly, but it was, it was one of these things where, you just don't know. And,
Right.
and I think that feeling of insecurity, the feeling of helplessness, it's just, it's terrible, because, we as human beings, we like to have a control of, environment, of where we live, what we're going to do, of our experiences. And this was completely taken away from us. And there was this higher power from above that could do anything, to anybody. And
Right.
and you could be a collateral damage any minute, basically. So
Did you see bombs dropping every
oh
day?
yeah,
Every
yeah,
day.
yeah.
For
I
2.5
didn't. I didn't see it
You heard it.
myself. I heard it. Of course, I felt it. I've seen. Actually, I have this image still in my mind where I think it was the first week when it actually started, and we were still very, very much, of course, afraid, and we were running to the shelters. And my father's sister, so my aunt, she lived with her family about 300-400 feet away from our building. So we lived in one building, she lived in another building, and her building had underground shelters, and our didn't. So we literally, for every night for first couple of weeks, we ran like around 2-3 a.m. That's when it started to
The bombs.
the bombs started
Really?
to come. Yeah, exactly. That's when we were going there, right? So we just wake up, pack our things, cry a little bit, scream, whatever,
Wow.
and then just take our whatever the necessities and just go there. So we'll spend 2 weeks most of the nights in those underground shelters. And I remember, I think one of the first nights and you see it's it's obviously middle of the night, it's it's pitch darkness, and all of a sudden, you see these flashes of light everywhere.
No way.
Explosions, and you feel the ground trembling, and it was devastating experience. And then I remember us running. It was one night. It was, I think, the second or third night of bombings, and I was, of course, my mom. I was 12. I have 2 younger brothers. The middle brother was 8. The youngest brother was 4. So the middle brother, he was running as well with our dad, and my mom was carrying the youngest one. So I was behind, and I dropped something, so I picked it up, and then I was losing my footing, so they didn't hear me because of the noise. So it was distance, and I was frightened that I'm going to be left alone. Wow. So as I was running, I trembled, on the rock, and I fell down, and I turned around, and then I could see this, I don't know. It's F-16 plane or something like this. They call it the invisible one. So it just, like huge speed, just flew and just dropped something there, which was very close. It was the military hospital I was telling you about.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just those kind of images are stuck in your mind forever. But at the same time, as I was telling you, I feel like that experience has shaped me into the person I am today, has helped me to be more appreciative of life. I give more value. I'm more grateful, and just because of everything that has happened in those 10 years, actually, because after the first war to the second war, the whole country we had embargo. So there was no import, so we had to. There was a lack of gas for cars. There was bread and milk. You had lines of people queues, very long ones, so you had to wait like hours to get bread.
Yeah.
And all these different things that have happened, made me and my family and all the people of Serbia more resilient, and just tougher, for whatever challenges that we face in life, for whatever adversity is out there. And I think that some people maybe stayed stuck in that emotion of maybe hatred and just revenge type of feeling. I I am not, and I don't believe that's the right thing to do, because then you feel like you're a prisoner of your own emotions in your life, because you can't blame anyone. You can't blame people of any country for what has happened, because it's not their fault. It's some maybe decisions of some head of states or militaries or whatever. I mean, but in the end of the day, why, if you carry this for all your life, does it really make any change for you? Is going to enrich your life? I mean, it's not. So you might as well let it go and learn how to. You cannot ask people to forget, and that's one thing that I realized, because, I was fortunate not to lose anyone that is close to me.
That's good.
My family, my brothers, everyone is good, is healthy. Also, the cousins and so forth, everybody's okay. But, I know people that lost their parents, they lost, somebody very close. And they lost homes, they lost lives, and they had to start over, from scratch. I think almost 500,000 refugees and even more. I mean, God knows how many people died. And so, and you can still see, and then one day I hope you'll come to Belgrade.
Yeah, I'd love to.
And you still see the traces of that.
Really?
You still see buildings that are, ruins, and since 99.
Wow.
And it's funny, but they use it as a touristic attraction today,
Sure.
as well, whatever. So, but, it's hard to ask people, hey, just forget about it. You cannot forget about it. You cannot. It's just, it's one of these things that is deeply, I guess, engraved into your subconscious, into your emotions, into your memory. But I think you can get over it and let it go. And that's something that I felt like I've managed to do it myself, and many people did, but many people also didn't. So, but it's still, the wounds are fresh.
Mm-hmm.
It happened. I mean, what is 99? It's almost not even 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's still relatively fresh.
And it was in your childhood. I mean, it was a time in your teens, I guess, right before you became a teenager.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was
intense, man.
It was.
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, it's intense. And I guess when
2.5 months, you said, every day, right?
That's why, I mean, it hurts me every time I hear about refugees, every time I hear about bombings, about war, and what's happening in Syria and Middle East. It's just, it's the amount of people, and Syria. Let's take Syria for example. I mean, I had one incredible experience that, I mean, I've never cried that much in my life. I became a Unicef ambassador of Goodwill for the region. Back about 10 years ago, and then in the meantime became the global ambassador. And as I became global ambassador some years ago, I start to do different things for UNICEF and my foundation, because UNICEF and my foundation are collaborating. And I remember it was a year and a half ago. It was just recently. I mean, when the whole Syria war started.
Yeah.
It was a huge thing in Europe, because probably third or quarter or third of the country just left. Can you imagine? You have 12 million people in Syria, and it was 3 or 4 million people left the country.
Crazy.
And probably even more now today, because they lost homes, they lost their lives, they lost their close ones. What they're gonna do? So they want to search. They want to go to some place that will offer them roof above their heads and social help that they don't have in their country, because it's completely devastated. It's completely destroyed. So many, like thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of refugees have went through Serbia to go to Germany, Austria, I guess the bigger countries in Europe.
Yeah.
And so we were on their trajectory.
Right.
So I went to visit one of those kind of locations that was offered from a city as
like
a resting place, shelters, homes, like temporary homes for the people that are passing through. and it was one of the hotels in town in Belgrade, and they gave them the whole lobby area, the whole kind of floor. And as I came over, I already start to feel this, and I had, obviously I do a lot for my foundation and so forth, and it touches your hearts because we're going to talk about it in a minute, but we focus a lot on education, and it's a different thing. You don't get to see the devastation, the hurt, the pain as much. You see that, but not as much as you see it here. So I knew what kind of could predict what's going to happen and what awaits me. So I start to feel all of a sudden these emotions because I've been fortunate. I haven't been a refugee myself, but I know many of my friends and people around me that are refugees of the wars during 90s. So as I come in, and I'm supposed there's a camera, I think it was CNN and a couple other cameras, and they wanted me to record a message, for people being there, to ask for help, to raise funds, to help refugees and to build homes for them and so forth. And as I came in and you see different rooms, there's a playroom, then there is a resting room and so forth. And the look on these people's faces was something that was, wow, boom, right away. First impression was like pain, insecurity, devastation, sadness. It's just all these emotions, and just they were flat. Literally they were flat. They were like, they didn't know what's happening. I mean, they're like, okay, we're here now, but where are we walking? Where are we going? What's going to happen? Where is our life tomorrow? So as I'm walking into this small area, play area for children, there are plenty of children there. So I observe them, for a little bit, and then one of the volunteers there, tells me, why don't you join them? Try to. So I didn't know how to react. Honestly, I was there. I didn't want to. I wanted to be with them, but at the same time, I don't want to be in their space because, I could feel the emotions. I could feel what they're going through. So I start playing around, and 10 minutes later, I really got into it. The children, and there was a couple of children around me, and we start, playing with toys and measuring things and whatever. It was really cool. And then somebody, taps my shoulder. And it was one of the people from Unicef, and she came with the mother of a child that I was playing with, and she was a girl that was probably not even 2.5 years old. And she told me, her mom came here to pick her up, and it's time to go. And I thought to myself, it's still today. I thought to myself, where are they gonna go?
Right.
What's gonna happen? I mean, it's sorry. Just it's even today. It's just so emotional. Because I don't know where they went. It's like having this girl and mom taking a boy who was 6-7 years old and this little girl, and they're they're traveling God knows where by foot, no home, no nothing behind them, and in front of them. So it was just, and then I was supposed to tell something in the camera. I'm like, guys, like now, I mean, I can't speak, I can't speak because it's just one of these things that breaks your heart,
Right.
And it's just, sorry, that's what war does. That's what war does. But at the same time, I'm really grateful that I've been through that, through this experience, through, wars and 90s and all these things, because it made me more human. It made me more connected with other people, because I whatever happens in the world, I know that we are all going through that experience of trying to take the best out of this life experience for ourselves, and I think going through those emotions and those experiences in past just allowed me to be more just warm-hearted towards people, and I feel that I get the same, and yeah, I mean, yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that story.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. I just
Okay,
it was
man.
one of these
Powerful.
things that is really, it just stays with you. It stays with you, and I like to look back to it as much as it hurts me. I like to go back to it and then understand that what I have in life and how fast I can lose all of that if I don't appreciate it, if I'm not living in the present, and knowing that there are people like that even today going through all of this, and us being in this incredible life and having this fortune to be successful and to be heard as well. Everything that we say, there are thousands of millions of people following you, myself, children that are looking up to us and then saying, okay, I mean, this is something that I can use to be better, and I want to be like him. So I think having this in my subconscious, all these experiences in the past, and never forgetting about that, keeps me grounded, keeps me aware that everything I say is heard, in these places that really need your advice, that need your help, that need your light. So, it's all about sharing that light and sharing that love.
Yeah. Wow, man. What would you say is the biggest lesson you learned from war, from that whole experience personally?
The biggest lesson that I've learned is probably that I should be always kind to anyone and everyone, no matter what experience they go through, because you never know. You never know what one person goes through. And you just always be kind, because there is something, that we call God, universe, angels. There is this higher force above and here on this planet that is going to help us to live a prosperous life, to be happy, to be healthy, to be joyful, to have that peace, if we truly respect and appreciate ourselves and others in that process as well.
Wow. Now, were you able to even think about tennis? You had this dream of being number one at 4, 5, 6. And then during the wartime, were you still thinking, oh, this is something I could still do? Or I have no clue where I'm going to be tomorrow because these bombs are right around me within miles. Were you able to practice? Were you just not sure? Were you just trying to,
Oh, I was practicing big time.
Every day.
I was, as I told you, I've,
that was your time with no school.
Exactly, no school. Which, I mean, I enjoyed school. I think it's great, but at the same time, I like to be on the tennis court more, because I was completely in love with it, and just, it was a huge passion of mine. And I started to do better and better and started to win some, local tournaments. I was, 11, 12 years old. And during those 2.5 months of bombing, we actually spent, after the second week was done, because in the first couple of weeks, we were like, okay, let's just survive, and let's just figure things out. We don't know what's going to happen. And then after the second week, we were like, okay, this is going to happen. God knows how long it's going to go for. So we might as well continue living our, so to say, normal everyday lives, whatever that is, And so I spent a lot of time on tennis courts, and we had a lot of tournaments. And I actually remember, I haven't been part of it, but because I was still young, too little, but there were people that were organizing this so-called target group activities. So they would, because they were bombing our bridges as well. So they would go out on one of, most important bridges that connects the two important parts of the town. So people would go there literally more or less every day with T-shirts that would have like a target drawn on them, and also on their faces they would draw targets, or on their top of their heads. And they would sing songs. They would go, they would be together, united, and that was like a message out there. Okay, we are the target. Try to do something now. This is us. We're here. So thankfully, nothing happened there. But that was how powerful this whole experience was for people to get together. You know, it was devastating. It was all these things that we talked about. But if there's something positive out of it, is that people survived because, and we got through it as people, as country, because we were together, we were united.
Right.
And we talked about it the other day on the lunch. Is that I was a bit I was complaining to you a little bit about Serbian people that we are not united when we are supposed to be.
Right.
We are
like
united.
pull each other down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I tell you that joke. Yeah. So, but it's you know, I think especially younger generations at that time, they were like, okay, this is our time to be rebellious, because when you're younger, you're rebellious. You know, you want to be part of those activities and whatever, and it's fun. So we try to turn it into fun.
Yeah,
as much as we could
during bombings. Crazy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, when did you start to fully believe in yourself that you were able to achieve what you wanted to do in tennis? When did the belief sit in, where you're like, yes, this is possible for me?
Oh, very early, I knew already I will become number one of the world. Like I was 7, I think it was probably first was the first TV show I had. I was guest in one of these kids shows and on a national
Kid Stars
TV
or something, or
whatever, something like that. And I said that tennis is my commitment, is my obligation, is something I have to do. I mean, I was so disciplined, at that time. And, they say that there's a great quote about discipline. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever in life you envision to do, you got to be disciplined.
Yes.
Discipline spiritually, discipline in sports, in whatever, in your family, in your relationships. So very early, I think, and my parents and my tennis mother, Jelena Gencic, they've deeply ingrained that discipline in me. And then I knew, already 7, 8, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I knew it was very clear. And what is strange about it is that, if you take in consideration all the circumstances in which I've grown up as a child, it was very odd. And there was many people, that were laughing at it. And it was my parents, my father had to, he went through so much. I'm eternally grateful to both my parents, and my father has borrowed money from people that were chasing him in car. You would not imagine the experiences that he had and we had in order for me to travel to United States, for example, for the first time in my life.
Sure. And
during those 90s, and because of embargo and all the things, the criminal rate raised. So there was a lot of, kidnapping and, different stuff. And it's not even close like that now. Now it's great. It's fantastic. It's safe and it's all fine. But during those 7, 8 years, it was really tough. People were scraping and people were fighting for their lives, basically surviving. It's a matter of like, if you take 1 bread or 2 breads, it makes a difference. You don't need to stay in the line, and God knows if you're gonna have a bread in a week time. So it was literally that kind of survival mode for everyone. So I think from very early stages of my life, I knew what I wanted to do, but not just what I wanted to do, but what I wanted to achieve, what is going to be my accomplishment in what I do. Mm-hmm. And I think because I had these objectives in life, I managed to have the mental clarity. I managed to so you kind of in tennis, and Andre Agassi is my coach now, and I'm proud to have him in my team. He always says, in tennis you work from top backwards, from basically setting up a goal, and then you work your way back. And it's just, exactly the whole season, how it's going to look like, because, okay, this is what I want to, this is my season goal. So, and then let me work my way back to this moment. And so this is probably a definition of how I felt at that moment mentally, and what, the plans that I had, the visions that I had. I was 7, I already, I was making like out of, like plastic or like a little paper materials. I was making the Wimbledon trophy. I was lifting, and stuff like this. So it was very, very clear in my mind that that's going to be my life, my mission.
Have you ever doubted yourself going on to, and being a professional and going against some of these top players for the first time? Did you ever have doubt? Or were you always like, I can beat them, I can be the best?
I had plenty of doubts and plenty of doubtful moments. I probably the one that stands out the most was back in 2010. When I was already, number 3 of the world. I was already a Grand Slam winner. I was an established player in, top 5 in the world, from already 3-4 years before that. So I was already into it. And I've won my first Grand Slam in Australian Open in January 2008. And I was 20 years old.
Wow.
And it was a dream come true. The whole I mean, I was very successful in junior days and everything. Yeah. It was just, I had this upward kind of spiral and trajectory in my tennis career, in my life, and everything was great. Everything was great. And then all of a sudden I had this period of 2.5-3 years where I didn't win a slam.
Really?
I was managing to be 3-4 in the world. But I struggled a lot, and for me, being number 3 of the world wasn't enough. I was not satisfied with that, and I always go back and say, wait, okay, when I was 7-8 years old, my dream, my life goal was always to be number 1 and win Wimbledon. That's it, and I need to achieve that no matter what.
Yeah.
And so, but then I reached the kind of mentally low point in my career. I think it was after Roland Garros, one of the 4 slams, and I lost. I was 2 sets to love up. I lost in 5 sets in quarterfinals against a guy called Jürgen Melzer. He was top 10 of the world, very good player. But I had him. I mean, I had a match and I just lost, and I just had a breakdown. And I remember going first to my parents and talking about this and that, and I cried, and I don't know if this is worth it. I don't know if I should keep going, and they're like, and my father was like, toughen up, no, like this kind of things, and I'm like, okay, but it wasn't enough. Like I felt I needed to think about it more. I felt I needed to share more. So I went to my coach at that time, Marian Vajda, and my one of my best friends in life and my former physiotherapist, Miljan, and I was in their room, and I remember sitting on the floor, and I just, again, I had another breakdown, and I was saying, I don't know, and they were like, okay, take your time, and just let's first, okay, breathe, and let's calm down, and then let's look back. And they were really, really wise for telling me, like let's go look back first, why did you start playing this sport and the whole thing, and do you love it? Do you still feel, leave aside what you want to achieve, what you want to do,
the passion for it.
But do you really like holding a racket in your hand? And then I'm like, actually, I do. I love holding a racket in my hand, whether it's a Grand Slams, center court finals, whatever, or it's just a normal, public court. I still like playing for the sake of playing. They're like, well, that's your source. That's what you need to tap into, and it's take a little bit of time. And literally, they thought it's going to take a few weeks. Next day, I'm like, okay, I'm back on track. Let's go. Let's keep going. And I never looked back ever since that moment. And I remember the next tournament was Wimbledon, probably played semifinals. And then after that, I won Davis Cup with my country, with my guys, end of that 2010. That was one of the highlights of my career. Yeah. And then after that, I went into having 43 matches win in a row. And I had that streak. I became number 1.
How long is that for?
It's like almost 6 months.
6 months? You didn't lose one match?
Yeah. Yeah,
it was a set, but not a match, right? Not a game.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Holy cow.
No, that was one of the. It was McEnroe and myself. We hold the record for longest streak of his history. Okay, so this is if you go online. So wait. So if you go online, you'll say John McEnroe 42, Novak Djokovic 41.
Oh, no.
Why? Because they didn't count the 2 matches of the guys that retired the matches to me, so they didn't count them as wins, and I would have the 40. But okay, John. John, you have it. You have it, John. Okay, you have it. So it's John.
Man.
Yeah.
That's gotta feel amazing. You were just in the zone.
No, it was unbelievable, and it just gave me wings. I mean, I felt, all of a sudden that I started to, play and play freely. I didn't. Between winning the first slam and that moment, it was 3 years, and I felt like I was playing for the wrong reasons. I was playing because I wanted to achieve. I wanted to do this. I wanted to lift trophies. I wanted to do this and that. I didn't, and that's okay, but that's secondary. The first, the primary, so to say, motivation needs to be what inspired you to start playing, what made you fall in love with the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the love, the joy, the passion for it, to play it. And so I all of a sudden became the kid that I was when I started. And I felt so much power and energy, and I just, exactly. So I never looked back after that.
Amazing, man. We have a few minutes left, and I want to ask like 1,000 more questions. So I'm going to be very mindful of this.
Yeah.
The thing you're most proud of that maybe a lot of people don't know about, maybe that's not this big public announcement, but something you've done recently or any time in your life that you're most proud of. And maybe it is something people know about. But.
Okay, so I usually don't like to praise myself. I don't feel like that. I usually leave this to other people, and also I don't feed myself out of someone else complimenting me, because I find my happiness inside. I find that working on my own character, virtues and features is something that is essential to me, and being able to establish this kind of inner peace and happiness in life, regardless of what's happening externally, is essential, because it keeps me connected to myself, to other people, to planet, to universe, and then that's the starting point. So what I'm things that I have done, I've done with my pure heart and intention. So it's hard to pick one, because I remember. During the bombings, right? So I remember I was going in our neighborhood and kind of sharing the food, with other families, with our children, giving clothes away. That's because it's not something that is very special, but it felt very special at that time for me. I've done things after many other things, and with philanthropically, with myself individually, and also with our foundation. But again, going back to the times of the war, I think that's something that probably would stand out, and something that I was very proud of, and I'm proud of and I'm really grateful to my parents that they were able also to give me this kind of education, and I guess consciousness about the fact that we're not alone in this world, and that we need to share. Because sharing is caring, and vice versa. And so I remember going around the neighborhood and just offering my warmth and my friendship and my love and whatever I had at that moment, and I felt, and then I felt more love than I probably ever felt. I mean, it's one of those moments where and in the biggest of adversity, that's where your pure self surfaces. And so that I would probably mention that.
That's cool. The thing you love about your wife the most?
Honesty, and compassion, and she. I mean, we can't even, we as men can't even imagine what women goes through, especially women that have experience of becoming a mother and all of that, and going through the pregnancy. It's another level. It's another level of sacrifice. It's another level of pain, but it's another level of love and dedication, to family and what matters the most. And so having her in my life is one of the biggest blessings I could ever ask for, to be honest. And to this day, I'm trying to always remind myself, what I have and what we have and how grateful I am.
That's cool. This is called the 3 Truths. So if this was the last day for you many years from now, and for whatever reason, all the videos and interviews you've done and stuff you put out there is gone, and no one has access to your information anymore. But you had a piece of paper and a pen to write down 3 things you know to be true, or the 3 lessons that you've learned that you would share to the world. And this is all they have to remember you by, these 3 truths. What would you say are yours?
Does it need to be like a single word, or I can just...
It can be a sentence, a paragraph,
okay, all right.
a phrase.
I would probably say...
3 lessons, yeah.
I would probably say live freely,
okay,
breathe deeply, and love fully.
Simple.
And it really comes to that. It comes to you know, being one with yourself and others, and just being present. And if I have to pick one of those 3, which I guess is probably the biggest and most simple and odd lesson that I've learned in my life, is to breathe deeply and to learn how to breathe. Because when you learn how to breathe, which is something that we take so much for granted today, is you learn how to live in the moment, to be mindful of yourself. You all of a sudden have, you observe things from a different perspective. You are not as maybe impulsive, and all of a sudden everything opens up, because we talked about it a minute ago. You have help. We have, the nature is there, the universe is there. There is something, and nobody can deny it. There is something that is there, that is out there watching for us, supporting us, loving us. But if we close our doors and we are living in a shell, how can we receive help? You got to open some windows, right?
Yeah.
Doors, and then eventually have no shell. And that's why, live with no shell. Just be authentic, be original, pave your own path. Don't just follow the paths that society is telling you to, we need more creativity in this world. Yeah. We need more innovations. We need more people that are free, and today's society is shaping us to be a bit of robotic beings, just got to do this, you got to pay this, you got to do that, you got to follow this, you got to take that, just try to understand what's the best experience for you, but at the same time, live freely and share it.
Powerful. How can we best support you? What's the thing we can do to best support you? Make sure we follow you on social media, but is there a way we can support the foundation or a big cause that you're inspired by right now?
I leave this completely up to you. Okay. The thing that you can do best for me is to do best for yourself.
There you go.
That's all.
There you go. Well, before I ask the final question and get you out of here, I want to acknowledge you for a moment, Novak, for your incredible ability to live for your dreams, but also make sure that you're inspiring the world in your dreams and not making it all about yourself. You're truly a global citizen of love. And for me, it's really inspiring to see that someone like yourself is in the world right now, because when there is so much hate that's happening specifically in America, you've been through the worst of the worst and come out on the other side with such a giving heart. So I acknowledge you for all that you do for your country and for the world. You're an incredible human being. Yes, my man.
I need to argue for this. Thanks, brother. Thank you. And I need to. Before you continue, I need to also say thank you,
of course,
for sharing that love as well. Thank you for bringing people that with inspiring stories. Thank you for sharing, passion for life and for greatness, with people, because that's what we need to inspire people to dare to dream, and children, because today we need it more than ever. So Thank you for that.
Yes, exactly. Final question is, what is your definition of greatness?
I thought you were going to ask me that. I was like, okay, I'm going to get away with this. No, my definition of greatness for me is purpose. If you find your purpose, you're going to give purpose to others. And you and me, as public figures, we have this responsibility, even more.
Yeah.
And I think that, on whatever level, of society you are, or whatever experience that you go through, you are going to maximize your, life's experience only if you find a purpose.
Mm.
And people will find their purpose because they will relate to the very same purpose that you are defining and that you're radiating and that you are portraying.
Make sure you guys follow this man all over the place on social media. We didn't even get into like the tennis mindset, the habits, the rituals, routines. That's going to be for another time. When you're back in LA, we'll do that. Or when I'm in
Serbia, man.
I'll come to Belgrade and we'll
official
bring the crew.
invitation right here.
I appreciate it. Yes. Or so next time we'll have to have Novak back on to talk more about that. But this was a powerful story, man, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. So make sure you guys follow him. Novak,
thank you.
You're a champion,
Thank
brother.
you, Luis,
Appreciate
for having
you,
me.
man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.